A quick video here on 1955's This Island Earth, a film which is occasionally considered one of the best 1950s science fiction titles. You may see it on a list with The Day the Earth Stood Still, Forbidden Planet, or The Incredible Shrinking Man, although one will also note it being mocked many times in English language media since its initial release. Famously derided in an MST3K film, This Island Earth hasn't quite had the elevated reputation as that next year's Forbidden Planet has, and always had. And I can understand why this is. Frankly, although I really admire the production of the film's final third, set on the alien planet Metaluna, the film leading up to that point isn't overwhelmingly interesting. It is one of these polished 1950s idealized perfect world, suits and makeup, professional formalism, dry dialogue, flat delivery, and a didactic imagination. Whilst we do witness moments featuring futuristic gadgets and exciting colours from time to time, it is surrounded by drab dialogue scenes and generally uncharismatic exposition. It is quite possible that the reason the Metaluna portion of the film really stands out is that what we see was directed by Jack Arnold. The studio wasn't happy with what credited director Joseph Newman had of the sequence initially, and so Arnold, director of It Came From Outer Space and Creature of the Black Lagoon prior to this point, helmed this segment. Considering Arnold's two sci-fi films before 1955 hadn't really resembled what we see on This Island Earth, despite belonging to the same genre category in somewhat superficial ways, the quality of the Metaluna portion is still rather surprising, I think. Pleasantly surprising, of course. I would like to give brief credit to the cinematographer on this film, Clifford Stein. I assume he shot, even though the director was different, it was Arnold as opposed to Newman. Despite that change in the Metaluna portion of the film, I assume it was still Stein as photographer. Let's see what the earliest posted IMDb user reviews have to say. Well, actually, I'm not going to read out the ones which just trash the film and recommend the MST3K cut, or at least the brief ones. Let's read this example of a negative take, pro-MST3K commentary, which is actually a substantial, more than 5 or 6 sentences text. 3 out of 10, so what's the hype? From Gislev, from the 19th of March, 1999. Wow, a long time ago now. I'd seen this in my much younger years, and nothing in it really stood out. Over the years, I've heard much about how great a movie Ty was, but now I watched it as the MST3K movie and then on AMC, and you really got to wonder, so what's so great about it, and what were those critics thinking? It does indeed have lovely matte paintings of Metaluna, but after that you've got dopey looking aliens even by 50 standards, you've got a really, really goofy looking ant, and you've got a plot that goes nowhere. We've come to Earth to secretly draw on your intellectual resources, so we'll let one of our guys blow you all up. Then we'll take you two back to our home planet, just so you can watch it blow up. Then we'll take you back on our last ship, right before it blows up. There's a whole lot of blowing up going on, alrighty. The movie starts somewhat intriguingly, but slows to a plod, as the technobabble is tossed out at levels that we wouldn't see until decades later in the Star Trek franchise. I just think the critics don't want to admit how their initial assessment of Ty was so off. But then, 9 out of 10, a nice sci-fi movie of the 50s, says Hitchcock without the K, 20th of April 1999. This Island Earth is not the greatest science fiction movie of all time, but it deserves more respect than it is often granted. The boys at MST3K, whom I think are great, may have done this film a great disservice. In its day, it was thoughtful, imaginative, and the special effects were excellent. I disagree with those who say there is no plot. The Cold War fears and xenophobia were once again at the centre of this 50s effort. The alien as our friend was later used in many settings, including one of the best of the Twilight Zone episodes, To Serve Man. I was young when I first saw this in a movie theatre, but even then I found the home planet Metaluna very striking and its fate frightening. I fear that after our smugness in criticising older films, judging them by standards that they could not have hoped to approach because of the limitations of the technology, keeps us from acceptance of their good points and their contributions. I have an acquaintance who can't watch the Maltese Falcon because it is in black and white. What a loss. Jeez. The sets are striking in this film. The aliens are a bit of a stretch, but I still like what they are. I saw this movie a couple of times in a theatre, not the MST version. As people left, they were captivated and involved. When we left, we had fun, not from ridiculing, but enjoying. Granted, there are no computer morphs and no giant metal bugs sucking brains out, but it is still good stuff. Though it wasn't granted a rating out of 10, it is considered a great work of science fiction from one Texican on the 22nd of March 2000. I first saw this movie when it was released in 1954. I was about 6. I didn't see it again until 1967/1968 as a theatrical re-release. The big screen did help, but the second viewing and subsequent viewings on video, I own it, showed it wasn't as perfect as my youthful eyes saw it to be. However, I still consider it a great show. It has the same basic plot of world domination by aliens that other movies of its day had, but it is so different in its approach, feel, and delivery. It just never seemed like the same plot to me. It was also a rare sci-fi motion picture. It was filmed in colour. Of the 11 horror/sci-fi movies of 1954, and this list might not be exactly complete, only 3 were in colour. Riders to the Stars, 1954, Phantom of the Rue Morgue, 1954, and This Island Earth, 4 if you put 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, 1954, into this group. Of that list there, actually, Riders to the Stars is the entry prior to GOG, 1954, which I assume he's forgotten about, actually. I don't know of Phantom of the Rue Morgue, I don't think, unless that's an alternate title for GOG. The remainder of the list range from the cheap quickies to the higher budget movie that had some effort put into them. The list is Devil Girl from Mars, 1954, that's a quickie. Creature from the Black Lagoon, they're all from 54, I'm not going to say the year. Creature from the Black Lagoon, that's a classic, we talked about that recently. Killers from Space, I don't know if I know that one. Probably a quickie. Godzilla, 1954. This is a Japanese release. I have mixed feelings about the original Gojira. It's okay. I've talked about this in another video. We're not even going to go there. Monster from the Ocean Floor. We talked about that. Stranger from Venus. Quickie. Them is overrated. It's kind of hokey and ordinary in the grand scheme of 1950s science fiction. I think it's just kind of the fact that it's a meme. It's a giant ant movie. It's got a poster. It's called Them! ! It's like half decent. It's not abominable. It's not as good as your Beast from 20,000 Fathoms or what have you. So yeah, we're not going to discuss Them on the program, by the way. If there's going to be any complaints about that, I'll be quite surprised, honestly. And Tobar the Great. Tobar the Great. No, I don't think I know of Tobar the Great. I've skimmed through it once. I don't think we need to. No. These black and white shows did have a merit in their own way, and they did what they were made for, to entertain a crowd of kids and some adults. Almost everyone appreciates colour more than black and white, and for a kid's science fiction movie to be in colour, it made This Island Earth all the more special. Of course, the special effects, acting, and other aspects of this movie don't match up to today's standards. If it did, it would mean there had been no advancements in over 40 years. For its day, the special effects are extremely well done. The sets are impressive. The script is intellectual without going leaps and bounds about the child viewer's head. The mutant really wasn't as good as I remembered, but it was still impressive. Bud Westmore was the master of his day. He, Jack Pierce, and other makeup masters of the past created the foundation for today's highly imaginative work. Just think, future generations probably will give negative reviews of Star Wars, Jurassic Park, E.T., and many of the other groundbreaking movies of our time. Somewhat true. They will probably laugh at the poor quality of the special effects or the stilted dialogue and acting, just as some of the younger audiences does today. I agree with other writers that point out how much people miss by not watching a black and white or even just not watching an older movie. They don't come across as hip, realistic, terrifying, or as erotic as today's fare. But if you really look at these shows, you will find the cornerstone of today's movies created by that moldy oldie from the 40, 50, 60, even 70 years ago. And finally, in an 8 out of 10 from Wizard 2 on the 4th of September 2000, the 1955 sci-fi film This Island Earth was spoofed in the film MST3000 the movie, but in actuality the film got good reviews from Leonard Maltin, the motion picture guide, not to mention Bill Warren's monumental opus Keep Watching the Skies. The acting in this film is not exceptional, but not dismal. I would say adequate. My favourite character is the Metalunan, Exeter. This dude is one smooth talker, oozing a sinister coolness while displaying a funky appearance. This dude is, neatly coiffed white hair, bushy eyebrows, a high indented forehead, copper-toned tan, and dressed in a conventional Earthian suit and tie. He would have made a great politician or televangelist. His assistant, Brock, is a carbon copy, as are the other Metalunans. There is an atmosphere of suspense and intrigue, and the plot is credible enough. On the technical side, a Metalunan communication device called an interocitor remains a centerpiece throughout the film. It is very versatile, able to incorporate an interplanetary generator Volta radar, astroscope, electron sorter, and a deadly neutrino ray. All of these are not in the script, rather I got them from the Raymond F. Jones story the film is based upon. However, the neutrino ray was demonstrated by ex-editor Dr. Carl Meacham on occasion. Meacham pulled the plug on one of them in his lab, causing it to self-destruct, leading one to wonder if that device was so advanced and why didn't it have a backup internal power source and safety feature to prevent that sort of sabotage. Moreover, why did it have to rely on an external power supply at all? The highlight of the film is the voyage back to Metaluna with doctors Meacham and Adams on board, for distant planets being attacked by enemy Zargon-guided meteors. The doctors are recruited to help the Metalunans rebuild their war-depleted uranium supply, which sustained their protective atomic force shield. The Earth is rich in uranium supply. The Metalunan spacecraft looks like a cheap plastic toy pulled from a Cracker Jack box, but as it cruises through the thermal barrier, the fiery special effects around the craft look way cool, and the special effects, set design and artwork of the war-ravaged planet and the ongoing battle there are simply excellent for that time period. In addition, the Hermann Stein musical score is a tasty delight. The organ parts are simply an ear to behold. That's true, the music in this film is quite good. No, this Island Earth does not have the Oscar-winning effects of The War of the Worlds. The War of the Worlds by Byron Haskin. Some of the effects in that film are good, but that's one which that's a hokey film. I know, it's like, oh, what, we've talked about a lot of hokey films, but it takes itself way too seriously. It's dry, it's such a set attempt to be an adaptation of one of the most famous novels of all time that I just find it overwrought, the Haskins' War of the Worlds. I feel similarly about the Spielberg film, sadly. I don't know if you can adapt that H.G. Wells story. If it's not a period piece, and if it is, it's going to be kind of hokey. You can't really pull War of the Worlds off. I don't know. In my opinion, the whole it being a kind of POV as well. You know, like the Wells story. I don't know if you can really replicate that in a film effectively. Maybe you can. I don't see why not. It's just they're different mediums. Anyway, the snappy overlapping dialogue of The Thing from Another World. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that film on here either. I don't know what it is. I think that film was just played on television a lot over the years, evidenced by its usage in Halloween 1978, John Carpenter, as the Halloween flick, and also this idea that it obviously influenced parts of mainly the narrative build-up of John Carpenter's The Thing. But man, that is not a particularly well-directed creature feature. As a build-up slow sci-fi film, it's not bad at all, but I don't think overall The Thing from Another World is very good, and I think you people are kidding yourselves. I really do. I really, really do. But nevertheless, what does he say? A snappy overlapping dialogue of The Thing from Another World? Yeah, it's a Howard Hawks film. The abundant richness of ideas of Forbidden Planet, nor the spine-chilling suspense of the invasion of the Body Snatchers, but what it does have is an irresistible charm, the result, I suspect, of having a peculiar combination of outstanding qualities coexisting alongside of much inferior ones. This Island Earth should definitely be part of every 50 sci-fi film connoisseur's collection. That's probably true. Anyway. Have a great day, night, wherever you are on our Island Earth.